As lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, we all have an inclination to the epitome of love. When we rejoice, when times are hard, whatever stage of life we are in, we all yearn to be in one special place. We all wish to visit the blessed shrine of Imam Hussein in the holy city of Karbala. Not all of us have the blessing to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein, but there is still a way to experience the sights and sound of the blessed land of Karbala in the comfort of your own homes.
We call upon you, dear viewers, to support us in our financial costs to help bring the Holy Land of Karbala beaming into your homes. You can support us with a monthly donation of just $50 or £30. We are your gateway to Karbala. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Imam Hussein TV 3.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh and welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now this is a live show, we do take in your live questions, so if you have any questions you'd like to ask on any topic in Islam, please send it via the WhatsApp number. The QR code should be there somewhere, I'll take you straight to the WhatsApp page, or the number should be there on the bottom screen. Send in your questions and inshallah myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer them. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section. And inshallah, the technical team will be able to send them questions to myself and they will be discussed. I'm your host, Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you this evening, Sheikhna?
Alhamdulillah, bikhair.
MashaAllah. Sheikhna, when it comes to the A'immah and the Imams, we always talk about their teachings and the legacies that they've left behind and how they have brought us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have taught us our responsibilities as Muslim people. However, what are the duties and responsibilities of the Hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Ummah or on the universe, on the people?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. As mentioned in the Kitab al-Kafi by Al-Kulayni rahimahullah, talks about the Al-Hujjah in overall, in Kitab al-Hujjah. He mentions some of the features of the Imam alayhi salam, some of the roles of the Imam, in which the one who was assigned and chosen by Allah Azza wa Jal through his Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. In this hadith it says Al-Imamu Aminullah fi khalqihi, that the Imam is the trustworthy on behalf of Allah Azza wa Jal on his people, on the people on the earth. In other words, the Imam is there to save the people from their anxieties and problems by giving them the right guidance and guidelines on how to live in the right way. And to, of course, guide them towards the right path. So to do with the dunyawi living and issues, and also the ukhrawi and the hereafter issues. And of course, he is the one in which would be a mercy to those who are on this earth. Rahmatan lil alameen, as the Quran mentions about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he is the rahmah over the worlds, and not only this world. And this, of course, inherited by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that they are rahmah towards the people, towards the world. Al-Imam Aminullah fi khalqih wa hujjatuhu ala ibadah. And the Imam is hujjah over the people. He brings the Sharia which was revealed on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He explains it. He would look into it more and more, and basically teach people the ahkam, what is haram, what is wajib, and other akhlaqi issues with this regard. So he becomes the hujjah on the people, that they must follow the sharia of Allah Azza wa Jal, as thousands of the prophets did so in the past few thousands of years. وَخَلِيفَتُهُ فِي بِلَادِهِ. He is the Khalifa on this earth, assigned by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said that I leave two weighty things, the Book of Allah and my progeny. So they are the Khalifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which they represent Allah Azza wa Jalla on this earth. They explain, interpret, translate, and the exegesis of the Quran is by them. They are the only people who have the right to give the ta'wil of the Quran, the true meanings and the hidden meanings of the Holy Quran that was revealed by Allah Azza wa Jal. وَخَلِيفَتُهُ فِي بِلَادِهِ وَالدَّاعِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. And the one who calls for Allah Azza wa Jal, that others should abide and obey and follow this Imam, in which he would mention the halal and the haram. So one should follow this Imam because he calls on behalf of Allah Azza wa Jal. He is da'i Allah on this earth. وَالذَّابْ عَنْ حُرَمِ اللَّهِ. And the one who protects the sanctities of Allah Azza wa Jal. Many sanctities. You know, the Ahkam Allah Azza wa Jal are the sanctities of Allah Azza wa Jal. The haram, you know, that one should not perform. The holy shrines, the Kaaba, the holy city of Medina, the mosque, Huram Allah Azza wa Jal, that must be sanctified and protected by the Muslims, in which we saw that in history that the Yazid and the Bani Umayyah came and destroyed Medina and killed thousands of people, and also destroyed the Kaaba. So they actually did not respect this hurma and Allah's sanctity. So that's why the Imam is there to protect this sanctity of Allah Azza wa Jal. So these are basic rules of the Imam alayhi salam, the main rules in which mentioned in this hadith by the Imam alayhi salam.
Ahsant. Sheikh, we've got some questions coming in from our viewers from YouTube. Inshallah, we'll be able to answer them. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
What does it mean if an istikhara comes neutral? Should we still continue the act or no? Quite a good question there, Sheikh. Now, let's say someone's asked for an istikhara, they've gone to a scholar, and it's come out neutral. What does that mean? What does that indicate?
Yeah, sometimes the answer comes as wasat, in the middle. So it's up to you to do it and not to do it. So it's something to do up to you. Depends.
But if you say up to you, technically they weren't sure in the first place. That's why they did the istikhara. Now it's coming out. I guess, could you say that there's not much benefit and there's not much harm neither?
Well, it's something in the middle, as mentioned in the istikhara, that it's up to you to do so or to leave. But anyhow, one can change their niyyah and then take the istikhara again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. More questions coming in. MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum. When making wudu, do your feet have to be dry beforehand? For example, if I wash my hands and feet with soap before wudu, then make the intention to make wudu after, should the place of mas'ah be dry?
The places of mas'ah are two mainly, the both feet and the head. So one has to make sure that they're both dry, or at least if they are moist, then the moist of your hand and the wetness should be more than the moist on the head or on both feet. So that's important.
Understood. I guess it's not too difficult to wipe your feet before you do wudu, or before you do the mas'ah on your trousers. It's quite easy actually. Sheikh, now from YouTube, what should be the main focus for youth?
The main focus for youth is number one to, for those who are responsible for their teachings, for example, the Islamic centers, let's say, the lecturers, let's say, or the teachers, or even the parents, to make sure that initially they would teach them the usul al-din, the principle of the religion, Tawheedullah Azza wa Jal, the prophethood of the prophets, the qiyamah, the day of judgment, and the consequences of the amal of the one. If they do good, then they get the rewards in paradise, for example. If they do bad, then of course they get, na'udhu billah, the punishment in hell and hellfire. And of course you have the imamah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam on top of that. That's why do we have to follow the imams of Ahlul Bayt and not the other khulafa, as they claim that they are khulafa Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why should? So these are important discussions and subjects to be taught to the youth initially. And then of course there comes the ahkam, the wajib, the haram, when it comes to the ibadat, najasat, lots of issues, but one can gradually, and the one can start with them when they're in their, let's say, the age of 8, 9, even earlier if they are, intelligent in terms of understanding the topics and subjects. So one can start with them gradually in the age of 7, 8. I remember a long time ago, when I was around 6, 7, I went to the madrasa, as they say, the religious schools in the holy city of Qom.
Okay.
Yes, and it was a summertime. So we were taught ahkam. I remember very well, ahkam and aqaid and Quran. So they taught us the Holy Quran, to memorize it, to study the ahkam. Basically, this is how you do wudu. This is how, for example, you pray. This is how we have to believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. And nothing is like Him, for example, and cannot be shaped, and so forth. So they can start with these basic teachings, subjects in which, inshallah, those youth would be in the safe side, inshallah.
Inshallah. And obviously they can learn fiqh from Ahkam SOS here on Imam Hussein TV free. Sheikh, now from YouTube, can you drink non-alcoholic beer even if it contains less than 0.5% or 0% of alcohol?
What is mentioned now, there's I think non-alcoholic beer which is produced in this country, in Muslim countries. And overall, you have to make sure it's non-alcoholic, 100%. Otherwise, it's problematic. One should avoid. I'm not sure. There's Barbican mentioned.
Very famous brand. They are. I think they're very popular in the Middle East as well.
Yeah.
Some of them are made in the Middle East, and these are considered malt drinks. And they're flavored. They're made with similar ingredients to beer, which is hops and barley and oats and things like that. But there's no alcohol in it whatsoever.
As I said, if it's just a non-alcoholic, and one of the ulama would say that also, if it's like prescribed by the physicians to drink just the water extracted from the barley, and not actually been fermentized or added like alcoholic intoxications, for example. If it's purely without any issue, that should be fine. But the problem is when there's percentage of alcohol within that drink.
From I think this one's from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. Every hadith I have read has said that khums has been dropped during the time of ghaibah, and other hadith state that scholars would be stealing money if in the end of times. What does that say about giving khums to Maraja, which is the Imam's money, and that Imam hasn't appointed the Maraja on their half to collect khums?
You see, initially the notion of khumus is the Holy Quran. فَأَنَّ اللَّهَ خُمُسَهُ. It's clearly mentioned in the Holy Quran. Of course, the non-Shia say this khumus is only for the spoils of the war, غنائم الحرب, in other words. And of course, our ulama came and they mentioned the issue that it's according to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam narrations, that ghanimtum means whatever you gained as profits from business, from incomes, gifts, for example, donations, whatever you gain and you don't spend it over the whole year, then of course that excess surplus money, you have to pay khums on 1/5 on that unspent and leftover amount. And that's of course discussed in the book of fiqh, of course. We are not experts to come and basically raise such doubts. Otherwise we're going to be raising millions of doubts about the temporary marriage, about, for example, some of the ahkam of the marriage or the divorce, for example. Lots of things one can easily come forward and say, well, how come we do this, we do that? That's part of the expertise of the ulama to look into it. Of course, you have the right to ask, discuss, but if they have the evidence, then you can't beat them in this situation. You can't actually enforce your opinion when they have the evidence from the hadith, for example, or from the as they say, usul al-amaliyah. When there's no hadith, they would come to the usul al-amaliyah, for example, ihtiyat, bara'at, takhir, and so on. So one should refer back to the experts in this field. And the ulama, of course, the ulama for the past centuries, they would confirm and affirm that you have to pay khums. Those hadiths have its own interpretations and meanings and have specific, timings and errors on those day and ages in which was the time of the Imam alayhi salam, for example. So we have to look into these more in depth and ask those who are experts in this field, the ulama, the fuqaha. Otherwise, the faqih would be, as they said, stealing or lying to people.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're going to basically, dismantle the marja'iyya organization as a result, and not to trust any marja', any alim. So where do we take our fiqh from?
Excellent. Sheikhna, from YouTube, question to Sheikh. Many Sunnis ask prove imama from Quran. So I'm guessing he would like to know, how do you prove imama from the Quran?
Very clear in the Holy Quran, when Allah Azza wa Jalla said to Ibrahim alayhi salam, this great prophet of Allah, Khalilullah, he said, Inni ja'iluka lin-nasi imama, that I have appointed you as the imam over the people. And then he said, Mudriyati, the reply came, La yanal ahdi al-zalimin. The zalim would not be able to take this divine leadership. A zalim could be anyone who commits even one sin in his life. You cannot give this imama issue. Sometimes you're talking about imam jama'ah in a mosque, a prime minister, for example, for a country. That's fine. So they can choose somebody who is just, for example, and they follow him as the imam jama'ah, or as a, let's say, governor, for example, somebody who is just, adil, and they respect him. And ulama would, of course, support him and help him with the rulings of the country, of the city. But when it comes to Allah's divinely rulings and somebody to understand and be able to communicate and connect to this great religion of Allah Azza wa Jal, then of course you need somebody who has inherited this ilm of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the famous hadith which says by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ana madinatul ilm wa aliyun babuha." I am the city of knowledge and Ali is the gate of the knowledge. We have to go to those who are connected to the Prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal. Not to bring somebody from the street who was a merchant, who was a businessman, I don't know, like Trump, and make him Khalifa of Rasulullah.
Yeah.
That's a disaster. This actually, the act of dismantling the whole Islamic system as a result. And it happened. But Allah Azza wa Jal protected this religion, alhamdulillah, this time. لِيُظْهِرُهَا عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ, to reveal it on the whole thing, on the whole religion. So, yes, the Imam is the Holy Quran, is in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that I leave the book of Allah and my progeny, in other words, to be khulafa, to be the aim of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Otherwise, who do we have other than them? Please guide us to somebody who, like Ali alayhi salam, like Hussein and Hassan alayhi salam, the two basils or rayhanat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Sayyidah Shabab of Ahl Jannah, these are hadith all in the books of Ahl Sunnah, not only the Shia, that they are the two masters of the paradise. And of course, we don't have any other than them. Salamullah alayhim.
Ahsantum, Shaykhna. Question coming from YouTube's, can you make sujood on a tissue, like a tissue from a coffee shop? I guess the turba is not available and so forth, so tissue, can you perform sujood on tissue?
Of course, if the tissue is made from the tree, let's say, originally, or leaves, that should be fine, yeah.
No problem. Obviously, we want to let the viewers know that always use a turba. That is ideal. A turba, khak of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam. If not, you can use wood, stone, unedible leaves.
Yes.
And tissue obviously comes from trees, so that's why you can use tissue. Shaykhna, question from WhatsApp. Shahada or study first, then take the Shahada for a non-Muslim? Should a person take a Shahada, then start studying Islam? Or should he study Islam and then take a Shahada to become a Muslim?
No, if one is aware that he needs to convert to Islam, he has made his research, let's say, in somehow, of course, now you do the Shahada, and inshallah, gradually learn the Ahkam of Islam. How to do wudu, ghusl, how to pronunciate and pronounce the words of the Salah, be it the Holy Quran verses, Hamd and Surah, or the Dhikr, Ruku' Sujood. Of course, by that time you should be, inshallah, on the track.
Another question here, I think it's from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. Can I follow two maraja at the same time if I am convinced they are both equally highly qualified and knowledgeable?
You have to choose one marja with this regard in terms of following the marja'iyya. One adil, alim scholar, some would mention a'lam, most learned in overall. And then if there are masail in which that marja' has said that I don't give fatwa, but as a obligatory precaution that you shouldn't do it, and in this case, on these masail, with ihtiyat wujubi, you go back to other marja' to follow his fatwa in this situation.
Question, I think is from WhatsApp or YouTube. Can I work in a non-Muslim slaughterhouse and slaughter animals in their way?
We have to ask about this, inshallah.
Okay, do a bit of research on that, no problem. From YouTube, considering all we know about the Sahaba and wives today, why didn't the Prophet ﷺ cut ties with the Sahaba, divorce his wives during his lifetime? Why leave doubt?
The Holy Prophet ﷺ, he was in the process of establishing Islam. So he had no choice to bring the mu'min and the munafiq. He had no choice. Otherwise, you're gonna have a new battlefield with the munafiqeen, let alone with the Jews and the mushrikeen. So there was no choice except to basically even pay those so-called munafiqeen. السهم المؤلفة قلوبهم is mentioned in the book of fiqh, in which the Prophet used to give like 100 camels to Abu Sufyan, السهم المؤلفة, that they just to attract them towards Islam, to avoid raising and uprising or waging war against the Prophet. After he moved to Medina and established Islam, after the 8th year of the when he opened Mecca, conquered Mecca, he opened Mecca without any killing anyone and spilling blood. So he had to buy those hearts, السهم المؤلفة قلوبهم, just to make sure that Islam can be established in the right way. Otherwise, you would have even enemies from inside the Islam, and eventually they actually betrayed. They actually went against the Prophet's family and killed one after one till the Ashura, which is very famous incident and event in the history.
Ahsantum. Shaykhna from WhatsApp. Sheikh, why is Raja not mentioned in Usul al-Din? Because we have too many reports that say disbelieving in a Raja takes you out of the fold of Tashayyu.
In overall, some of the Maraja I've seen in their books of Risala mention in some cases that, or other books of the fiqh, that Raja is part of the Aqidah, that to believe in the Raja. Of course, the main ones are the most famous 5, Usul al-Din, Tawheed, Adl, Nubuwa, Imama, Ma'ad. But in anyhow, this is part of the Aqidah as well, that we believe in the Raj'ah. Now, some of these beliefs would affect on us being like mu'min or Muslim, that's a different discussion.
Another thing is also when it comes to raja, this is aqaid, it's not usul-ud-din. It doesn't come under the topic of usul-ud-din, it comes under the topic of aqaid. And therefore that's why it's not mentioned in usul-ud-din, which is mainly to do with deriving law. From WhatsApp, I believe. Can I work in a betting shop and take people's bets and maintain betting machines, but I do not bet myself?
Not at all.
Can I work as a dinner lady at a school and serve pork sausages to non-Muslim children?
It's forbidden to serve pork or alcohol to anyone, even non-Muslims.
Good question coming here, Sheikh. Now, can I name my animals like budgies, rabbits, fish, etc., so household pets? Can I give them religious names?
In overall, you shouldn't use those names to basically as a hetic hurmah, to breach the sanctity of those names. That's important. Not to use them to actually bring them down. In other words, let's say somebody has a dog, for example. Let's say he's a farmer, he's got a farm dog, a security dog, and he would call it one of the names of the let's say, mu'mineen, for example. That's an issue, that you should not name such animals with sacred names, for example.
Sheikhna, from WhatsApp, in Dua Ahad, it says, فاخرجني من كبري منتظرا قفني شاحرا سيفي مجردا قناتي. How does this apply to women?
Of course, when they read, of course, we have in the narrations that there are 50 women who will support the Imam alayhi salam in his reappearance and after occultation in his dhuhur. It's not only men, there are 50 women alongside the Imam alayhi salam. Now how, the details of course we have to see.
I see. From WhatsApp, can I pray on the floor that is not najis but people walk on with their shoes, so it could be dirty but not najis, without using a prayer mat? So Sheikh, let's say I'm in a shopping center or the street, I need to pray, I pick somewhere on the side, but it's people walk through and so forth. Am I allowed to pray there?
Yes, you can, if there's no alternative to this place of salah.
From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum. My Christian mother is interested in Islam. She asked me, what were the signs of prophethood of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how to know for sure? And another last question, the Euphrates is drying up according to biblical and Islamic prophecies. This might be a sign of the last days. Are there such prophecies known in the Shia school of thought? So we'll answer the first one first, which is, what were the signs of prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Of course, the Holy Prophet and every prophet that comes to prove his mission, he would bring at least a miracle. And of course, when the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came, of course, he brought with him the Holy Quran from Allah Azza wa Jal through Jibreel alayhi salam, which was revealed on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Quran challenged those Arabs who were eloquent, who were poets, to bring even an ayah, and they couldn't. And many tried, they couldn't. They went for the whole year to bring an ayah, or they couldn't do so. So Quran by itself is a miracle that remained as it is for the past 14th century. So, and of course we have thousands of ma'ajiz and miracles by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which when the mushrikeen came, they asked him, for example, to make that, let's say, tree to basically come towards them. So the Prophet did so many of the miracles mentioned in the books of the history.
And also the Euphrates River drying up, according to Christian prophecies, this is one of the biggest signs of the ends of times. Do you have anything in the Shia school of thought, any rawaya or any tradition to say about the drying up of the Euphrates?
We can't time, let's say, the Asr al-Dhuhur, or let's say the time of the Dhuhur, or even the end of the time. This is something in the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jalla. This is Ilm al-Ghayb. We can't really say this is the sign of the Yawm al-Qiyamah or the dhuhur and so forth. It's up to Allah Azza wa Jal to bring any sign near to us and bring the Imam Salamullah alayhi,
Inshallah.
or even afterwards the Qiyamah, for example.
Sheikh, now we're going to go to a short break. Join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars at
permissible to
home.
plant trees by or
Was
over
Islam
the
established
graves?
based on peace and
Is it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted
individuals?
to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS. Yes, that's how you can send in your questions. If you have any questions you'd like to ask in topics of Islamic fiqh, Islamic law, on any topic, whether it is Islamic finance, marriage, traveling, food and drink, inheritance, whatever you have any questions in regards to, please send them in via the WhatsApp number. It should be on the bottom there. You can scan the QR code there, will take you straight to the WhatsApp page. You can give us a call in the studio, 0203-515-0199. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, please put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah, technical team will be able to send it to my iPad here, and I will be able to discuss and answer your question with Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, a question we have from WhatsApp here. I'm aware that when it comes to recommended ghusl, only some are well enough known so that one does not have to do wudu after them, such as for the prayer. Which recommended ghusl are well enough known that one does not have to do wudu after them? Sheikhna, mustahab ghusl, where you don't have to perform wudu after. As far as I know, and from what I learnt in the fiqh classes, was that it's only the wajib ghusl, whether it's ghusl janaba or ghusl, you're touching a dead body, you need to do a ghusl or so forth. You don't have to perform wudu after that one. But mustahab ghusl, do you need to perform wudu after?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The fatwa of Ayatollah Shirazi today that the only ghusl which suffices from the wudu is ghusl janaba, as you know. That only in which if you do the ghusl you don't have to, and you shouldn't do wudu. You go straight towards the prayer mat and you perform the salah without any wudu. Unless one, of course, goes to the toilet and, of course, breaks his wudu and so on. In overall, many of the ulama today, they say that, like Ayatollah Sistani, that the mustahab ghusl, which I mentioned, like ghusl al-Jum'ah, Friday ghusl,
Yes.
would suffice on the wudu. So one can actually do ghusl al-Jum'ah and go straight to the mosque and pray with the jama'ah. And that suffices. So it depends which marja you follow with this regard.
Ahsant. From YouTube, Sheikhna, how old was Fatima Zahra salam alayha when she married Imam Ali alayhi salam?
Of course, we've answered this many times. She was 10 years old. Of course, we have a hadith in which mentions that she used to grow faster than any other girls. You know, in every day,
I think it's the riwayah is the Ahlul Bayt in general. They would grow years in months.
Exactly.
Months in weeks, weeks in days and days in minutes. That they grew very, very fast and were very, very mature for their age. So as you are well known, Sheikh, it's quite common that someone who's mature always looks older than their age anyway.
Yes.
And you look at the maturity of the Ahlul Bayt, it is really, really, it's not surprising that they would have looked a lot older or a lot more mature than their actual age.
And don't forget that she is the daughter of the Prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal. She is infallible. She is part of the Ahlul Bayt, in which she was purified, thorough purification. So we cannot compare our girls with Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, with the Prophet's daughter. That's a wrong comparison, of course. The hadith says, لا يقاس بنا أحد من هذه الأمة. Nobody is allowed to compare us with other people. They are from Allah Azza wa Jal, chosen by Allah. اصطفاهم الله عز وجل.
Ahsan. Sheikh, if someone is not able to perform ghusl but is able to perform tayammum, is it permissible for him to have intercourse with his wife even if the prescribed time of a particular salah has begun?
Yes, it is permissible because now the hukum of this individual, let's say he's got a deep wound, and part of this amal is to do actually tayammum. Of course, that's hukum now to do tayammum. That's my hukum now. And the salah is accepted and no qada needed to do so. So yes, one can do so.
Assalamu alaikum. Is a hole in the earpiece for earrings considered a feature of the body and thus must be washed specifically in the ghusl? Good question, that. Very good question. So, Sheikhna, having your ears pierced, so when we do ghusl and we wash our ears, and you know, we don't have to wash the inside, but we wash it around and stuff. Do we wash the piercing, the hole that's in the ear as well?
You see, anything that is visible, you have to wash it. The lips are visible, you have to wash them. And even in wudu, you have to make sure the water reaches the lips. The visible parts of the face in other words. So yes, the same thing applies with the ears. If they are actually visible, then of course you have to make sure the water reaches that part, which is visible.
Sheikhna, does rainfall on the najis ground soil purifies it?
Of course, if we have rain falls on the soil or clay or dust and such like, and there's no ayn najasa remaining there, in other words, that piece of najasa has been removed in somehow, of course that clay or mud as a result would becomes tahir and pure. And
this is proper rain that we get back home, not the little drizzles that we have in London sometimes. It's proper rain that can really even cause floods. Sheikhna, from YouTube, I wear hijab and I want to work in a museum or in the field of archaeology. Is this allowed?
Of course, as she mentions that wear hijab. If she preserves the hijab, why not? She can do so.
Ahsantum. Sheikhna, while I was in the state of ruku, I doubt that I have recited Surah Al-Hamd. Do I need to abort the salah?
In such doubts, one should ignore these types of the doubts, because these are doubts in which one is actually in the next stage of the salah. Now you are in the rukun of ruku'. You are in the position of ruku'. Because there's a doubt, then you have to ignore it and just carry on with your salah.
Ahsantum. Sheikhna, is it permissible to consume medication that contains alcohol for one's treatment, according to the opinion of His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani?
His Eminence mentions that if it's very small amount, of course, the alcohol is non-alcoholic, non-intoxicating. General alcohol which is seen in medications and some of the, let's say, medical drinks, in other words, for cough drinks and so forth. If it's only 2% or less, that should be fine. But if the amount of this alcohol is more than 2%, the Sayyid says that one should mix it with water, dilute it with water, so that the amount of the alcohol becomes very small. So in this situation, one can actually consume, but 2% or less.
Fair enough. Sheikhna, from YouTube, why do Shia Imams of Jama'ah read the Quran in Salah like a newspaper, or opposed to the Imam of Jama'ah in the Sunni Mosque who recites beautifully in Salah? Okay, so why is it that well, it's only a couple of people, I guess, but this person has seen the Imam of Jama'ah who come from the Jafri school of thought. When they recite Quran, they're not reciting it like a Qari would recite it in Salah. Whereas if you look at other madhabs, that's how they recite it in Salah. So why is that the case? Why don't the Shia Imams, and I'm sure there are plenty of Shia ulama who are well versed in tajweed and recite beautifully, and when they pray Salah they recite beautifully, but for those who don't, why not?
Well, we have to see why that individual prays in this way. It's not something we have to basically be worried about. I think the most worry should be about the aqeedah and the belief. Yes, I can bring the best reciter, beautiful voice, and by heart recites the whole Quran. But if he has no wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, this recitation and this memorization of the Holy Quran by heart and reciting with cry and weeping has no value in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal if this individual has no wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Of course, we have to improve in the salah and other aspects to recite the Quran, tartila with tartil, for example, tajweed, fine, no worries. But the most important is the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and the tabarra from their enemies. That's the most important. Maybe some ulama or imams or those who would lead the community in the salah would concentrate on other issues in aqaid and fiqh and so forth, in which they had no time for any reason to learn the ahkam of, for example, tartil, to improve their voice, for example. But that's not something, a big issue that we have to worry about. The worry is about the aqeedah in people, in the ulama, in those who lead the community, that they have a clean and perfect aqeedah, in which the Holy Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the famous hadith that I leave Kitabullah, the book of Allah, and my progeny. Other than that, of course, it goes towards the hellfire. Na'udhu billah.
Sheikh, also, why do Shias also combine their prayers? Are they not praying 3 times a day then?
Initially, Ahlul Sunnah mentioned in their books that the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he combined the prayers, the 2 prayers, Maghrib, Isha, without any issue, without any, let's say, rain and so forth. In normal situations, he combined them. So we follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as mentioned in their books.
Hassan. Sheikh, we are unaware of the ingredients of food sold in shops in Western countries. It might be free from those ingredients that are forbidden to us, or it might contain them. Are we allowed to eat such items without looking into the ingredients or inquiring about them, or is it not allowed for us, according to the opinion of His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani Hafidhullah?
The Sayyid mentions that yes, it is permissible to eat such food which is unknown about if it contains animal fat or it doesn't contain, of course, which are forbidden to eat. And overall, you have now, alhamdulillah, every pack of food with ingredients you can read easily and find out. But sometimes for example, you find out it's on the shelves of the supermarkets, there's a fried falafel, for example, hummus, and so forth. Salad, is it tahir, najis? Of course, the qa'ada which says, kullu shay laka tahir. So everything is pure and tahir unless you're certain it's najis. In this case, we can consume these types of foods because we don't have any certainty that they are najis.
Ahsantum. Sheikhna, a question coming in from, I think it's from WhatsApp. And it's our final question for this evening. Turbas with the name of Imam or provoking Imams on it, is it permissible to keep those and prostrate on them? So we have plenty of Torab, sajdah, as we say in our language, with the name. Sometimes it has Allah, sometimes it has the Ahl Kisa on it, or 14 Ma'sumin and so forth. Are we allowed to have those? Are we allowed to sujood on them?
There's no issue with it, but what's important that we can explain to the non-Shia, that this turba is actually represents that earth in which the Prophet ﷺ and his companions prayed on. They prayed on a plain ground in the holy mosque of Rasulullah ﷺ back in those days of his leadership in Medina al-Munawwara. That even there's a narration which says that the ashab, they used to, in the heat wave of Medina, let's say in summertime, they used to take some of the pebbles and cool it in their hands and put it back and do sujood on a cooled pebbles as a result.
Yes.
So they used to pray on the ground, on the earth. جُعِلَتْ لِي الْأَرْض مَسْجِدًا وَطَهُورًا, hadith says by the Prophet ﷺ, that the earth made for me to prostrate on it and to do the tathir. So we follow the Prophet's sunnah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Where did they bring the carpet and the rugs and to pray on those carpets and rugs? I don't know. That wasn't in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you're a Sunni, you have to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah. To have a piece of clay or pebble or anything, not necessarily to follow us and take turba and pray on that pebble or rock or even more, for example. That's sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He prayed on the earth and not on the carpet and expensive rugs.
Sheikh, I think we have time for one more because it's coming from YouTube and I don't want to let the viewer down. Assalamu alaikum. I always perform my prayer, but sometimes I feel reluctant because... Oh, please let me know how to not be lazy or reluctant in prayer. I guess this is a problem a lot of people have, Sheikhna, is that if they haven't, have a habit of praying and, they just began prayer, sometimes they're not, consistency isn't there. What advice do you have for our brothers and sisters that they pray regularly, pray on time, and not miss any of their prayers?
The hadith in which Imam al-Sadiq salamullah alayhi said before his departure from this world, when he gathered his sons and daughters and offspring and told them that لا تنال شفاعتنا مستخفا بصلاته. The shafa'a would not be applied for those who take salah and prayers lightly. The shafa'at for Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. You need their shafa'a on the day of judgment. You have to make sure that you pray on time. You want to reach the point of Kawthar, you have to make sure that you reach yourself with the good deeds, with the good a'mal. Because eventually neglecting and taking these ahkam lightly will result, na'udhu billah, in deviation as a result. We had in the past century, in the time of the communists, many of the youth from the girls and the boys in Iraq, because of the invasion of the communism from Russia, many of the Iraqi youth, male and female, they became communist. And they used to live in the holiest cities of Iraq, sadly. Yes. Why? Because they neglected in somehow. They were not taught well about the aqidah, neglecting the ahkam. As a result, they deviated from the right path. Now they became communist. So we have to make sure that we apply all these ahkam. Do the wajib, leave the haram. Wattaqullah. How many times the Quran mentions ittaqullah, ittaqullah in the holy narrations? Ittaqullah. Fear God. Have that God-fearing feeling, so that you can prevent yourself from such na'udhu billah, deviations and taking the wrong path and the wrong way.
And I wanted just to add to that I think it's very, very important. This will help me improve my prayer, actually, was studying aqaid and learning more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, improving your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Ahlul Bayt, you understanding who you are worshipping and why He's worthy of your worship and why you are worthy to worship such a superior and great beneficent being. This would really, really help in your salah, inshallah. Thank you so much to all the viewers and for all your questions. If we didn't answer your question, we do apologize. But inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be back next Wednesday, this Wednesday coming, for another episode of Ahkam SOS. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please send it in via the WhatsApp. The WhatsApp number is there. You can save it on your phone and send questions throughout the week. No, not a problem. And inshallah, we'll be able to answer them on Wednesday, 7 o'clock here on Imam Hussein TV 3. For myself and the Sheikh, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أنا لا راتب ولا عندي معين ولا عندي ولد كبير، ما عندي أحد اللي يعيني، وعلى الله وعلى أخوتي عيشتي حيل صعب. جهالي يردون مثل عندهم مدارس، يردون مصارف، يردون من لبس، يردون أنا هذا كله ما عندي يعني ما أقدر أصرف. أنا هذا الشيء كله ما أقدر أصرفه، ومنين أجيب أنا؟ يعني أنا راتبي لحد الآن ما طلع، جاي أركض بالراتب، راتب ماكو. أنا لا أطلع ولا أمشي ولا أعرف أحد، وأنا غريبة بهالمنطقة، وأنا من أهالي البصرة. عندي 6، عندي 2 بنات و4 أولاد. لا هو حتى الله يرحمه كان يقول لي أنا الزلمة ما قادر على عيشتي، شلون راح تنطفي عيني وشلون راح تعيشين هذول الجهال.
طلعنا أنا وياه ذيك المرة بالدراجة وهو وياي ونضحك أنا وياه ونشاق أنا وياه.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In today's hadith of the day, I'm going to share with you a saying from our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family, which is recorded in Biharul Anwar. The Holy Prophet advised, when making a decision to do something, think about its outcome. If it's good for you and for your advancement and development, then follow it. But if it is misleading, leave it out. Life is full of many ups and downs and many important decisions which must be made, many of which can be scary at times and make us uncertain. Here, the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, is giving us a very simple advice: to reflect on each decision we make and not to make decisions with haste. Much like many motivational speakers tell us today, the Prophet told us 1400 years ago that we should do things that help us advance in life and develop our character. And he tells us, if the decision will lead to detriment, not to do it. It may sound like simple advice, but in these hectic lives that we live in, it is a reminder to pause and reflect on decisions we make, however big and however small. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
With more and more victims of war and poverty, the Middle East has seen a surge in patients seeking medical aid. Iraq alone has 2.4 million people without access to any form of medical assistance. In Afghanistan, due to the lack of funding and devastating conflict, the health service is at breaking point. Imam Hussein Charity aims to help provide a better future for these impoverished patients, aiding them with finances for their prescriptions as well as dialysis of their kidneys. You can help our brothers and sisters with purchases of prescriptions for just £20, and for £200 help a patient with a dialysis procedure. To donate or for more information, visit www.imamhusseincharity.com.